What up, Mo?
What's going on, Keith? Looking good.
How so?
I will say you have the eyes of a cult leader. You have very striking grayish blue eyes that make me want to just sip the Kool-Aid and follow you. Be my guru. Be my sensei. Show me the middle path.
Thank you. I've been trying to lead a cult in my years. The cult of
Object.
just having a good time.
The cult of having a good time.
Just the cult of having a good time.
The cult of Bud Light, The cult of
Bud Light.
Miller High Life.
I don't think I've never bought Bud Light.
Never bought Bud Light.
I've drank it.
Not even when they were
I've
woke
never-
for like 30 seconds?
I've never purchased Bud Light.
I've never purchased Bud Light.
I've purchased Bud Heavy,
Ooh.
but I think maybe that only one time in college. I was always an IPA man.
He's an IPA, man.
I was.
It's such a hipster. Keith, you are. I think you're a hipster.
I was an IPA guy
My man
back
has...
when I first started drinking beer. I was like, I like this IPA.
Are those VHSs of Seinfeld? Or are
No.
those DVD collections of Seinfeld?
That's a terrible question, and no. I keep a DVD shelf in my man cave because I have a DVD player. And, maybe I'm going to lose internet and maybe I'll want to watch something. And so I have, a pretty good collection of DVDs.
Yeah, because in a world where we lose internet, we also still have power.
We do.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
You also have records.
I do. I like a good record.
You have good records.
I've been getting into records more lately. I like records because they give you something to do while you're listening to music. You ever just looking for something to do? You're like, I like listening to this song, but wouldn't it be cool if I had to get up in about 15 minutes and flip this bad boy over so I can hear the other half of this thing?
I've heard, I will say, I appreciate the audio quality of records.
Yeah,
it's a different vibe when you meet somebody who has like a serious record set up with like good speakers, like old school speakers, and like it's a different vibe.
Yeah,
But
yeah, definitely.
I can barely maintain like
No, you do not seem like the kind of guy that could have a record
I
collection.
couldn't do that.
No way.
I couldn't like go flip it.
I like that
Couldn't
you
do
think that you blow on the records to flip
I thought you
them.
blow on everything you love. Like that's how things work.
You gotta blow on it if you love it.
You have to.
You just
You
go,
remember
okay, see you later, house.
I remember blowing on the cartridges, 360.
That was to
and,
get the
like,
dust out.
Yeah. So there's no dust accumulation on
No,
CD?
on a record,
record, yeah.
you wouldn't blow it either. You might wipe it. You could potentially wipe a record.
Mm.
But I wouldn't go blowing records. You're getting your saliva potentially on there, which you shouldn't blow on video games either. That's not really advisable, I think, by the video game industry of America.
Well,
Which I
think
just made up.
It's worked my entire life though.
True,
Nice little
but
play it like a harmonica. Lick
You-
it a little bit.
yeah,
Get that working.
well, because you don't want to get saliva in there. There's electronics that can be ruined by your saliva, so I wouldn't do that. That's stupid. I did it though. I used to do that. I was a big Sega Genesis guy.
I used to well, actually when I was hospitalized when I was a kid for a little bit when I was in 7th grade. And the Barbara Bush Hospital has a huge video game setup that you could just roll into each of the rooms. And I used to roll that in all the time. They had the 360, they had the PS2, they had everything. And the nurses, every time you were done using it, would take the CDs and hand wash them. And that used to freak me out. I'm like, you're going to ruin it. And they're like, no, it's fine. And they worked just fine.
Yeah, is that so that
because it's a hospital and you don't want to spread
Wouldn't
germs.
spread. That makes
There are
sense.
kids with cancer in there and everything.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to get germs on those kids.
Yeah.
Or really any kids, let's be real. But that's cool that you had that option. You don't miss physical media, I can tell.
I don't miss release day at GameStop.
You don't miss the smell?
I don't miss the smell of other nerds. I don't miss the fact that like you can get there and not get what you wanted. I also don't miss the fact like there were defects. Like sometimes there were just defects. People remember the nostalgia of like having a good game that you could share with your friends and all that stuff, but they don't like remember like how like every once in a while those CDs sucked and they didn't work, or like how like sometimes you'll go back home with an empty box. And like
Oh, that happened?
that happened to me a few times. Like
Oh, because someone would steal it?
someone would have stolen it, they sold it to you, and you're like,
and you wouldn't feel the difference? I guess it was a CD.
yeah, it was a CD
With
and
cartridges.
You're a kid, and my mom wasn't savvy. She's just like, the kid wants this damn thing, I'm just gonna buy them. And also I remember games where a brand new game was like $20, $30 max, and it got up to 60 and everybody had a problem. Now it's at $70, $80 for a new game. Prices have shot up.
I remember Sega games being $50 in like 1992 or 3.
92. I remember PS2 games though were like it was like $20 for used, like 30, 40 for like new stuff.
In today's money, $50 would be worth $107 now. So that's the equivalent of what $50 was worth back then. So that's what you paid for a game, was over $100.
Damn.
What today's money?
Damn.
Pretty nuts, right?
And these sucked. Some of those Sega games weren't good.
Some of them were bad, but you wouldn't really buy those ones.
You only bought the good.
Yeah, I remember I took a few chances on games that were like maybe used and they were cheap, and I was like, that could be fun. But like, pretty much you just rent them though. You'd rent them first, really, unless it was a Sonic the Hedgehog situation and you knew it was going to be good, and then you just get it and you knew it would be a good game.
I paid $20 a month. Me and all my friends did this. We all paid $20 a month at Blockbusters, and we could rent out one game and one movie every time we visited, and we could do it unlimited. We just come back and it's the same $20.
You sound depressed when you talk about this.
It was the best time of my life.
Why you sound? You're
depressed.
like, as well, because you could do that.
Oh my god, it was the best time of my life.
I need you to really lean into
It was so good.
Lean into your homosexuality, Mo.
Things tasted better.
There it is.
You remember, man?
Yeah.
It was so good. Blow pops. I'd grab as many blow pops as possible.
Did you remember blow pops?
Yeah. I remember blow pops.
How long would you chew that gum for?
There were, not too long. I'd spit that gum out. I'm a spitter.
Now, would you bite into the?
Of course I'm biting.
With the sugar still on there?
Yeah.
You wouldn't get to the bottom?
Oh, no, I wouldn't lick it. I'm not going to lick it till it gets to the bottom.
I was a big suck it till it gets to the gum guy.
To the gum.
Yeah.
What else? Ring pops? Ring pops are the shit.
You like those?
I like
I just thought it would get sticky on my hands.
It did get sticky, but that was part of the fun. Then you lick your hands,
You're just some kid licking your hands in the streets?
Of course, man. That's why I have a great immune system now.
From licking sugar off your dirty ass hands?
Exactly.
That's filthy.
That's childhood. You're gonna get your kid hasn't done anything that gross yet.
That's 2-year-old. Okay, she's doing gross stuff.
Once she's an 8-year-old, you're gonna see some stuff.
I'm not gonna see anything I wouldn't do. Yeah, no, ring pops. I liked. That was a nice big hunk of sugar.
It was a nice big.
I'll give you that. And it fit
do they
right
even
in.
Sell those anymore?
I'm sure they do. I'm sure you can go on Amazon and get them. Always liked the sour candies though. big sour candy guy.
Sour wasn't a flavor profile I like too much.
Sour Patch Kids. I would go Psycho Sour with the Warheads.
Ooh.
I would go to this video store that had candy. You go buy the candy. They had Warheads. They were like little ones. They were like 10 cents each. So you'd bring like a buck. You'd get 10 of them. And then you'd eat them and you'd be like, oh, And then like at the end of the night, your tongue is bleeding.
Oh, it hurts. Yeah.
It's bleeding. You have blood coming off your mouth from the candy you ate. And in your mind, you're like, this was good. I'm really happy that I had that candy and I bled for that. I gave my blood for this Warhead.
Oh, jeez. I remember those days at Blockbuster, man. I remember having arguments with grown men, nerds, about games. I would just have these giant arguments about them. They're like, there's this one guy who he treated me like a man. I was like 12 and he was like, this is a fucking dude that I'm arguing with today. He called me a fucking idiot.
Nice.
And it was like, and I'd be like, you're retarded.
Did it teach you a lesson?
No. Well, yeah. They were nice to me. They were mean. They were just like, we were having fun.
Employee?
We were going back and forth. Yeah, employee, Blockbuster employee, yeah. Because I went there literally, dude, my mom was like, you go there every day. You got to stretch your money out. I was beating games all the time. And like whenever a new game came out, I was right there. Me and my brother, we'd walk there sometimes because it was close enough to walk. And we'd get our shit.
Golly. Oh. I never rented a game from Blockbuster.
Oh, sometimes it'd hook me up and keep something in the back for me. Like I'd be like, I really want to play like X game that comes out, or I really want to watch like Role Models. Oh my God, I can't wait when Role Models comes out, the movie. And they're like, yeah, we'll keep that in the back for you.
I used to, you could call ahead and like have them hold a movie for you at the video store. That was sweet. The one I remember reserving when it came out was Happy Gilmore. When Happy Gilmore was coming out on tape, I was like, Dad, you gotta get Happy Gilmore. We gotta watch it. It's supposed to be really funny. It's Adam Sandler. He's the funniest. That was the first Adam Sandler movie I ever saw.
Oh, wow.
I think that was only the second movie he ever made also, so that makes actually
I think the first one I watched by
Billy
him
Madison was the first one he was in, I believe.
50 First Dates, I think was the first one I watched of his. And then I watched, Happy Gilmore and all the others.
Waterboy?
Yeah,
classic.
Classic.
I saw that
Bobby
one in the
Boucher.
theater, dude. I saw that one in the theater. Wedding Singer, I went to opening night.
Longest Yard?
Never saw that one.
Oh, it was a classic remake. And some of his newer stuff, I need to watch one of his Precious Gems. I need to watch that one because everyone says that one's
It's called Uncut Gems.
Oh, my bad. Uncut Gems. My bad. See, that's how behind I am. But me and Courtney were talking about how much we love Adam Sandler because he's in like my top 10 like favorite like comedic actors or even just
he's
comedians.
Beloved.
He is just so good.
He's a great stand-up comedian still.
Relatively clean.
It's kind of wild that he could, he's able to make a special that was as good as he made. Like, it was a really good special. Did you see a special that came out?
No, and I saw bits and pieces of it.
A few years ago. Oh my God. I mean, all over the place with like hilarious stuff, great songs, always killer with the songs. And then he had that whole tribute to Chris Farley, which was really a sweet tribute. Oh my God.
Imagine if Chris Farley, if Chris Farley never passed, he would have played Shrek.
He would have, yeah.
He was casted for Shrek. It would have been a totally different movie.
It would have, but I think I'm glad it ended up the way it did.
Yeah, the first Shrek was a classic. Because it would have been too silly with Farley.
Yeah, because I think I don't know, man. Shrek came out when I was little, and I saw the first one and the second one, but then I don't think I ever saw any other ones after that.
I watched the first, second, and third, and then the rest were just kind of like. I think also when you have a series like that, you have to accept at one point like the show has outgrown you. and you're not their target audience anymore.
You got to accept it.
You have to accept that, because people get really mad. Like, people got mad at the One Piece remake, the live action. They got mad at the Avatar: The Last Airbender live action, and it's just like, just understand, like, you watched Avatar: Last Airbender when you were 13 and had good joints and like were happy, and life was kind of going in a better direction for you. And I'm sure, a damn near 30-year-old watching that same show at the same time period you were would have thought this stupid too. You got to just understand things change. Things are made for new tastes.
Yeah, it's really, it's
not for you anymore.
It's not, but there's opportunity for things to be upgraded from a kid thing to an adult thing.
For sure, but
didn't that happen with something, a comic book or something? Wasn't there like didn't they make an R-rated something? What was it, X-Men? Maybe it was like
Deadpool.
Deadpool was the kind of the first, like.
But that was different.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking like, did they? Why am I thinking of one? A movie that was like it was like a kids movie, but all those kids grew up, and it's like now they made it into like an adult movie, like a movie for adults.
Adults. Maybe it'll get back to you later. I can't make a connection
because I want the who doesn't want the R-rated Ninja Turtles?
They were super R-rated when the comics were out. Like, those were bloody, right?
Original Ninja Turtle comic books were hardcore, and then they softened it up to be appealing to children.
I also believe the creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a Mainer.
Yep.
Or has a connection to Maine. Really?
Yeah, Westbrook. It was created in Westbrook, Maine.
Oh, wow. I loved the Turtles growing up, but then the
One
Turtles
town
are
over.
a great example, too,
Turtles.
of, like, a show that, a show and movie series that has just, it's passed me by. Because, like, I'm not going to watch the new Ninja Turtles movies because they're not for me anymore.
Yeah, man.
They're for kids.
I was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle age. I was that's the age group.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, a banger of a song.
Ninja Turtles.
I know, it keeps going up, and then
Turtles in a half shell.
Turtle power, and then
and we're different we're different,
way different generations,
and it's transcended.
But the movies came out in the early 90s, which is like right when I was like 7-8 years old. I was
not in the 90s,
and like I remember seeing probably Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Was it Secret of the Ooze? That one, I remember seeing that one maybe in the theaters. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, I think I saw in the movie theater too. But that was exciting, man.
It's funny, I don't think his other comic took off, where there was he had a samurai one with a rabbit.
Don't know it.
That was that I feel like never really took off as much.
Yeah, probably because I've never heard of it. That makes sense.
Probably. But I feel like that's a part of being a nerd sometimes, is just accepting that and being okay with it. Same with, like, it happens with basketball too, or like sports. Like, people are just like, oh, nobody's better than Michael Jordan. Nobody will ever be better than Michael Jordan. But there are like players who are statistically much better than Michael Jordan right now.
And yeah, and I mean, era to era, players are always getting better.
Oh yeah.
They're only, especially with YouTube now. I mean, it's so possible to just get better at everything, at least like technically better. Like if you were to be able to travel back in time, and everyone knows this, but if you like put today's best pitcher against 1950s best hitter, even Babe Ruth, I'm curious if Babe Ruth could hit any of these people. Probably not, because they're not used to it. You're just as good as you're only as good or better than the players you're playing against. Like, you don't.
There are very few sports where I think to myself, or there are maybe very few athletes that I think to myself, like, yeah, if we put them in like the league now, like I think Michael Jordan probably would find his place in this league if he were a young man and be like
Yeah.
put into it. But
He'd
like,
be a good bench guy. I'm just kidding.
or like, I think fighters too. Like, I think like the only exception would be like boxers. I think you take any boxer, like I think Muhammad Ali could take on any boxer.
Could you take on Jake Paul?
I think he could whoop Jake Paul's butt, dude. I might put money down on that fight.
What are you betting on?
Tyson.
You taking
Tyson? I think
You're
a lot
taking
of
the
people
underdog?
misunderstood that clip from our podcast that I think Tyson is going to lose to Jake Paul.
Well, he's the
I just
underdog.
I just think it's weird that a young man like Jake Paul's fighting Tyson, but it's whatever. Jake Paul's my favorite of the Paul brothers, to be honest with you. But I'd love to see. I was talking about it with my friend. Tyson wins. Even if he loses the fight, he wins. Because if Tyson fights and wins the fight, he beat a 20-something-year-old. He's still Iron Mike Tyson. He's the best. If he fights and loses, he's a contender. He fought a young man who has had more recent fights, has all that, good twitch muscle reaction, and he survived the rounds, and he wins. If he loses by knockout, he still is like, oh, Iron Mike did his thing. He did the best he could. If he loses by points, people are going to make fun of Jake Paul for having won by points. But if Jake Paul wins and knocks him out, he's the guy who knocked out a 58-year-old man. If he wins by points, he's the one that barely won a fight against a 58-year-old man. And if he loses, he's the guy that lost to a 58-year-old man. There's nobody walks out being like, good job, Jake, at the end of that fight.
But
they all make money.
But if he gets his ear bit off by Mike Tyson, then he is the one that's got his ear bitten off by Mike Tyson most recently.
It would be cool if Mike Tyson bites his ear off, then Jake Paul's just on the ground screaming, which I hope this doesn't happen to Jake Paul. I don't wish ill will on him. Then he goes to Logan Paul and bites Logan Paul's ear off.
That'd be cool.
And then he's like, where's your dad?
Or what if they really flip the script, okay? Hear me out. What if they really flip the script and they both just try to bite their own ears off the whole match?
Sorry.
They're just that would be cool.
And
maybe if they hurt their arm and they're feeling, some
it
of
would
that.
suck if this doesn't happen. It would suck because there's a lot of time between now and I think the fight's in June or July.
People
time
might
between the two.
they might storm Netflix. Okay, they're gonna storm Netflix. People are gonna be like, why did you not do this? They're gonna storm Vegas.
Well, it would be blamed on. It would be either Tyson's sick. Like nobody would back out just to back out. Like something happens to Tyson during training, he's hurt. Something happens to Logan Paul, he's hurt. But
they, Elon.
Not Logan, Jake Paul. Yeah.
Elon Musk would never fight Mark Zuckerberg. Like that never ended up happening. That would have been a cool fight. That's got to be on Netflix.
Zuckerberg wins.
Actually, they should just simulcast that on X and Facebook.
Zuckerberg wins, man. I'm starting to just get sick of Elon Musk in general. Like,
Aww.
I just get sick of.
Oh, you're
people
sick of
talking about
him?
Yeah.
Oh,
You're sick of him.
sick of Elon.
I just don't like him.
I'm sick of him.
He makes me feel icky inside.
But he's so much bigger than Mark Zuckerberg.
But Mark Zuckerberg does combat sports on the regular. He just went out and won.
Elon Musk does
jiu-jitsu.
Overeat and then will just fall onto Zuckerberg. And then
Elon Musk is built weird. He's built like one of his Teslas poorly. He's just. I'm a big fat guy saying this. Elon Musk looks like. Have you seen him shirtless?
He looks great.
He's a weird gut.
A weird
build.
I would love to have him just attack me, just for the lols, guys.
I bet his hands are real soft.
He's got those soft, sweet hands. He puts lotion on them. He's got them all nice and there. It's like, oh, you ever touch it? You ever just like You got what's your hand situation? They kind of rough.
You want to try?
They look rough. I'm gonna go with rough.
These aren't rough.
They look like they got some weather on them. Do you think they're real soft?
They're better than yours.
Mine aren't soft.
Shit
I don't have
talking my
soft hands.
man.
Oh, you want little soft hands? You want
I
little
do.
Elon Musk little baby hands?
I want little baby, little Elon hands. Yeah, I want some Elon
No,
hands.
you want Yo, how weird is it when you shake a man's hand and the hand is like real soft? I don't like that.
I don't pay attention to that stuff because I'm heterosexual.
I only
I
pay
don't care
attention.
what your hands feel like.
I only pay attention to it when it is noticeably soft.
Where you're like, those are hand job hands.
Or I'm like, what the hell what does this guy do with his hands all day? Blow on him?
What does this guy do? Take care of his skin? Does this guy have a skincare routine?
A hand?
Oh my god.
A hand care routine?
Yeah.
I like a callus. You don't like a callus?
Back when I used to like have to do things more with my hand for work, I used to have like a specifically for your hands, like lotion for your hands.
Yeah.
Just, because I was touching oil and grime and stuff. But no, back to Elon versus Zuck. I think you're wild for thinking Zuck loses. The guy does combat sports. Elon isn't doing combat sports. I bet what Elon does is he has a personal trainer and he hits the bags, or maybe he like spars and stuff, but I don't think he spars with people. I don't think he competitively. Zuck won a jiu-jitsu competition.
Well, you know what? Why is Zuck the one backing out?
Because Zuck is a better businessman. It's so not professional. It's also not professional to do ketamine and drugs and run multi-billion-dollar companies in which the lives of millions of employees and people and stakeholders are kind of relying on. Elon Musk, I have a lot of Elon hate. I just hate Teslas. I think they're just stupid cars. But like,
as a guy that knows a little bit about cars.
as a guy that knows a little bit about cars, they're kind of stupid.
Yep.
$70,000 cars. But Elon is very important to U.S. national security. And the guy does ketamine and like a whole bunch of drugs and stuff, and like goes on X and talks about.
Yeah, but isn't he getting it? I don't know.
He's
I know
like microdosing or something, but
I know there's usages of ketamine that doctors will give you that. So.
Well, his board of directors are talking about some of his stuff, most people. So right now, Mind Bloom or something is a very popular. It's being sold to me on Instagram all the time, where like you can do like microdosing ketamine and stuff to help with depression and all those things. But like to openly talk about it that often kind of brings doubt into your judgment. Like as a CEO, it's kind of. I can see why like some of the stakeholders are like, you shouldn't talk about all that stuff, or maybe you shouldn't like post every little thought that goes through your head on X. I don't know.
He's having a good time.
Guy.
He's weird. He's having fun.
He's having fun, which is fine. Maybe just do it retired, don't be behind. Just run X, maybe give up SpaceX and give up Tesla, the big multi-billion-dollar companies that you run.
Did you see the new Cybertruck driving around Portland?
No.
Did you hear that there was one?
If I see it, I'm gonna hit it.
Amy saw it.
No, I'm kidding.
She said it was huge. It's like
the clearance on those trucks are ridiculous.
It's way bigger than you would expect it to be.
Oh yeah. It also doesn't. It's hard to see behind. Like there's no glass. There's glass, but like you can't like look behind you. Like there's a camera to see behind you.
Isn't that the same effect?
It's not. Well, it's not as reliable because something could happen to the camera. Also, snow, dirt, dust, all that stuff can get on there. You're gonna have to clean it more often. It's just not as reliable as having a back window that you could look behind and see what's going on. It also
was just
supposed
ruined
to ship without side mirrors. Elon Musk didn't want side mirrors for the car. He wanted to remove those. I think he preferred cameras. for the look.
It makes sense. I mean,
Don't get me wrong, Cybertruck's for the boys. I get it. It looks cool. I just
Amy said it looked like a spaceship. She said it really looked like a spaceship. She said it's just absolutely crazy when you see it in person. It's nuts.
yeah.
I mean, she didn't say she wanted it. She was making fun of it.
I'm not judging her. I'm not. I assume
Judging her
that's not
for
the
what?
case.
I'm not worried about
I'm
you
not.
judging her.
I'm not like you're. But you're like, oh, she doesn't. I saw like she said she wanted it. But no, I just mean. I don't know.
I just want to make sure you didn't get me wrong in the fact that I'm not, oh my God, the Cybertruck is the car. I don't necessarily think
Okay,
that.
if you were like, hey Mo, here are the keys to my Cybertruck. Go drive it around. Go check it out. Of course, I'm gonna go check it out. But if I had the money to buy a Cybertruck,
Yeah.
I'm not buying a Cybertruck.
Yeah.
You know, I'm buying a Rivian.
Yeah. That's great.
No, I'm not buying a Rivian. I'm buying a Tacoma. I'm buying a new Tacoma. Buying
So,
a Cobra.
I don't know if you've noticed this. Speaking of space, spaceships and whatnot. Did you hear that the United States is going to be planting, planting vegetables on the moon?
No.
They're gonna be bringing plants to the moon, guys. In the next 2 years, they're sending people to the moon. First time in 50 years, more than 50 years, they've put people on the moon. They're bringing them back, and they're gonna plant these little plants, and they're gonna see how they do, and then they're hoping maybe trees next, and then they're hoping maybe a lot of trees on the moon, and then they're hoping that you can go to the moon and not have a spacesuit.
So is that legit, really, to make a little atmosphere?
That's kind of what they're hoping.
Be
Long
interesting.
term. Because and this is, I mean, I've heard Neil deGrasse Tyson make this point of like, if you can go to the moon and terraform the moon, then why wouldn't you just terraform Earth and fix all the things that we've screwed up on the planet?
Exactly.
They're saying it's easier to go to another planet and start that one from scratch than it would be to just reverse all the crap that we've done here.
Well, I think they know something we don't know about. But no, there's a great book. It's not even a book. It's a really short form article by Kenneth Boulding. It's like one of the, I don't know, there are like 4 or 5 like things that I've read in my life that have shifted my thinking. And this one is about, it's called Spaceship Earth. I highly recommend you look it up and read it. And it's about just the way like we value things and we look at things. And it talks about open and closed systems. And for some reason, a lot of us, we look at like the Earth as like an open system that like there's infinite resources and we could just exploit and do as much as possible and keep destroying it. We'll just move on to another planet or move on to something else. And then there's a different philosophy of like looking at it as a closed system with a certain amount of resources and taking into consideration the replenish rate for those resources and how we can kind of take care of those things and keep it sustainable, treating it like a spaceship that, you know, if it breaks, we're done. I'm probably not doing the article justice, but it's just this viewpoint that we have that's so short term as a people that like we're just like, we'll just mess this up and go somewhere else. Or like
let's go.
Popular philosophy right now in climate change is that the climate is too far gone. You know, one day, if you're ever cool with it, it would be cool to invite a friend of mine who's like a climate scientist to talk to her, because she'd be sick to talk to. But there's
which one of the Democrats paid her to do that so that she could spread lies about climate change?
I don't know. It was one of the white ones. I'm trying to remember.
White? It's just, you're just gonna go ahead and say white?
Yeah, let's say it. But no, a lot of like folks who are still liberal who are like, yeah, you know, we can't fix the world, so we're just gonna find ways to, we're not gonna stop using fossil fuels, but we're just gonna find ways to fix it. We're gonna like do carbon capture. We're gonna do X, Y, Z. We're just gonna fix it with technology. And it's like technology will catch up to fix all these problems. And it's so like it's so risky. Like it's so I don't know. Maybe I'm not smart enough to continue this. Maybe it's just I'll just stop. I have a new
Yeah.
joke about how um, I'm gonna vote for Biden, but I'm not really voting for Biden. I'm voting for Kamala Harris, and I just want everyone to be more upfront about that. That we're all voting for Kamala Harris. We're not voting for
Sure.
Biden.
Um,
She snuck up in that ballot, dude.
Sneaky lady.
Sneaky
I just
woman.
want to make sure that when we get those guys on the moon, we get some space weed.
There's a giant Trump Trump flag on the
No,
moon.
I'm wondering when they're gonna do space weed.
Space weed.
Come on, think about how many stoners are gonna want to buy space weed. They're like, "Whoa, that's from space, dude! Whoa,
Dude,
this weed is out of this world, man."
Weed is awesome, but too much of a good thing can be bad, man. I feel like we're smoking too much.
You think people shouldn't be growing weed on the moon and bringing it back to Earth? The carbon footprint might be too high.
I don't think. I think the carbon footprint. Well, what is the carbon footprint of like producing food on the moon and bringing it back? Like, what is that?
It's probably not good, but you know what? There's probably no microplastics on the moon.
Probably. No.
So there you go. Maybe it's they're trying to get the other planets going on. It's because we've really screwed up with the microplastics. We really went off the deep end on that. Probably in
There's no
hindsight,
fixing it.
maybe way less plastic maybe should have been going on. Maybe we really blew it on that. We should have never figured that out.
Oh, jeez. I don't know a good transition to this, but I really want to talk about it. I read an article and then later watched the podcast that this article was referencing about meditation. Do you meditate?
You know what would have been a
Keith?
good way to transition to that? Would have just been like,
I'm not as clever as you.
no, you got to be more clever. You got to be like, man, so many. Dude, there's all these stoners there. They're just always they're meditating. Anyway, you see this article about meditating?
Well, the transition I was going to go for was, man, too much of a good thing is like, can be bad.
Yeah,
like
and then
meditation. And I was going to do
that
that.
is good,
But then
yeah.
you interrupted me.
Here, let's take
I
it
was
back.
just-
Let's take it back. I take it back. So you know it's too much of a good thing?
meditation.
Yes, that's right,
Meditation
folks.
can be. I read, dude, this article's still blowing my mind. I'd love to hear what anybody else thinks about it. It's shoot, I forgot the name of the podcast. Oh, it's called Untold Story, The Retreat, and it's about a specific type of meditation group. Where, like, have you ever heard of people going on meditation retreats or like corporate meditation retreats for like 10 days or like a couple of days and all they're doing is just meditating or like
Sure.
whatever?
Sounds good.
And you always think like, oh, that just sounds like cool or whatever. But apparently a lot of people have like psychosis from this. Like it's very intense and they like lose their mind. And there have been reports in this podcast follows of people who've killed themselves as a result of this.
Yeah.
And I was like listening to this. It was wild to think like, I don't know. One of my first thought was like how many black people were going on these retreats and losing their mind. But like, it's like,
Are you worried about what black people do in general?
I just don't think black people are going to
You don't think-
meditation retreats and coming out crazy. I just
You
don't
don't-
think. I think it's exclusively a white thing. I think
you
the
saying-
white people corner that.
Are you saying black people shouldn't meditate?
I'm saying black people are fine. I think we're not going to lose our mind meditating at we're not going to lose our mind at
You
the
think
meditation
black
retreat.
minds are less susceptible to meditation-induced psychosis than white minds?
I think most black people are used to real problems, and
Not the ones that you invent in your head?
not the ones you make up in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that
I'm
must
kidding.
be nice.
I'm kidding. There are working.
Are there
class
white
whites
problems?
that I like?
Oh, yeah.
It's all about money, man. It's all about the working class versus the owner class, man. It's all about the proletariats versus the bourgeoisies, man. It's all a mirror. It's all a hoax. You know?
It is a mirror. It is a hoax.
Yeah.
I was thinking, do you have more to more on the meditation? Are you able?
I just thought, do you think it's wild? Like the whole thing was like, hey, watch out for 10-day because these people were meditating so much that they weren't getting enough sleep. And like the people who were like endorsing these retreats were not allowing them to sleep. We're not like, they're like, you're meditating from
okay.
4 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day.
How many people do these retreats?
A lot of people.
And how many people go nuts?
Enough for this concern to be a concern. They
Well,
didn't have hard data. They didn't have like, but it's also hard to get hard data for that to say like, 50%, 95% of these people have
like some
psychosis.
nice soft data on it.
What they highlighted was a very specific organization. I think is Gorshi or Gorsi, whatever, meditation. And this specific organization has had issues managing these types of problems where they were just ignoring people who are like having psychotic episodes. There's just straight up like one thing they said to this one lady was just sleep it off.
Sometimes you just gotta sleep it off.
And they
lady.
won't tell these people their problem. They won't tell these people's families what's going on with them. And they have them. Oh, and they have them like they take your phone because you have to be present. They take
it's
your
great.
phone. They take all your stuff, and you have to like.
You know when you really don't need your phone? This is an aside because I know you're going off on your tangent about meditation. But when you're with your family, you're with your whole family, and those are just all the only people that matter to you, like your loved ones. You don't need your phone. If your whole family's in the room, what's your phone for? What's going to happen to you? What do you need that for? Nothing. It's great. I left my phone in my car the other day. I was with all my family. 3 hours, didn't even need it. Didn't even think about it. It was great. Love that.
You have a different relationship with your family than I do. Because I need my phone if I'm with my family. I need something else to look at and deal with.
Yeah.
I need to disengage from that.
Well, I don't see my family. They don't all live around here. So when I see them, it's like you're just having conversations with people you don't see very often.
But that is very sweet. So you had time with your family for Easter, I assume?
Yep.
Or did you go to Mass?
I did. I went to Massachusetts and I celebrated Easter with my family.
Did you pick up your phone after 3 hours and no notifications? Did that make you feel a type of way?
I honestly don't remember the notifications. I think there was probably some notifications. Sure.
I will say I do feel my best when I'm not looking at my phone for a while. Like when there's like a day I'm just gaming and like I'm not looking at my phone, not really talking to anyone.
Yeah.
I'm just playing Dragon's Dogma 2 and I'm just vibing.
If you could download your consciousness into a machine, would you do it? And that would be your body.
Depends. How good are their graphics?
It would be, everything's the same. It's the same world you live in. You're just a machine and you can never die.
I've lost such an important part of my freedom though if I do that.
What's your freedom?
The ability to end it.
I'm sure you could end it if you wanted to.
Not if I'm just uploaded into a machine and I'm just thought. Like, what can I do?
You can simulate the end and then you could reboot.
Yeah, but then I feel like there's control there somehow. That would be my biggest concern if they could upload us. It would be like, because one of the most free things you can do in your entire life, I don't recommend it, is the fact that we, at any point in time, have the opportunity to just be like, we're done. And, obviously, I don't feel like I'll ever do that, but it's kind of nice to know it's there. I have that ultimate freedom. I feel like that's taken away from you in that world. I feel like they how could you do that? Like, and then you also have the ability to come back, which is like, even.
But the point that I kind of thought about was that, if your consciousness can go into a machine, then like, why do you need to even be an individual anymore? Because if you can do that, then you could also like tell your brain things are true. You can also convince yourself of things that are true that aren't true. I mean, you could probably do that now if you really thought about it, but like, I was thinking about what are the things that you do that you enjoy that like you would no longer have use for, which is like, probably uh you wouldn't have to eat anymore, you don't have to sleep anymore. I mean, there's things like you don't have to go to the bathroom anymore, you don't have to have sex anymore.
I wouldn't mind losing having to go to the bathroom.
You wouldn't mind that.
I wouldn't mind. I think that's
You're not
such
a big
a hassle.
Yeah, you don't like when someone asks you, like, say you're a single guy and you go on a date and they're like, what are some of your interests? And you don't just first one, you're like, I like going to the bathroom. That's kind of my big interest. That's
I feel like if you were like into butt play or something, that would come up. Like, I really love going to the bathroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow.
I'm a dude that
deep.
loves bathrooms.
But like sleeping, people like to sleep.
Love bathrooms.
And I would think that it would be love bathrooms. I think that it would be weird to just stop sleeping, right?
It would be weird.
So this
You
is
could talk to your boy Elon about that. He doesn't sleep. He sleeps 4 hours a night.
that's all you need. It clears your brain. It drains your brain of all the plaque. I've been learning about that. But
Brain plaque.
brain plaque. You don't want it. That's how you get dementia. Anyhow, scary stuff.
So sleeping less helps you reduce
Not sleeping
brain
less.
plaque?
No.
Sleeping more does.
You want at least 4 hours. That's the minimum.
Oh.
I think 4 hours uninterrupted, you're like good.
My doctor said the only healthy thing I do in my life is sleep. I sleep good. Sleep good amount of hours.
It's pretty scary.
Get that deep sleep.
But couldn't you just simulate the sleep? That was something you could easily simulate. Trick yourself. Because, like, when you're asleep.
Then it becomes a chore. Because you have to think you also control night and day. You control. Also, I don't know. You lose some of the randomness of life.
I
You know?
don't know if you do, though. Because it would still exist. And you get, like, I mean, you're simulating, let's say, imagine you could simulate 8 hours of sleep with dreams in an instant, and then you're up again. And it felt like 8 hours went by. It felt like 8 hours of sleep, but it really was just like 1 second.
Well, we kind of already live in that world. There's already stuff out there like, what are the chances we live in a simulation? But, everything we're doing right now is being, processed by our eyeballs, our ears, like this, crazy, nervous system. And like, all the shit that we're seeing right now is light bouncing. Like, how crazy, like, if we turn these two lights off,
Yeah.
this entire podcast shifts,
Yeah.
If we move just this far to the side, perception, it looks much different.
It looks worse.
So it looks a lot worse. Great production quality over here.
Hey, it's okay.
Keith Hebert.
It's
but
okay.
like, we all perceive things this way because of the way, like, I wonder, like, we only see so much of the light spectrum too. Like, if we were a different species, we just see a different world. So I don't know, to answer your question, it would depend on what part of my life I'm in, but I wouldn't want to do it. I also wouldn't want to lose that control of, like, who's controlling that system. Like, they upload me into that computer. Is that computer protected? Like, would I one day just disappear in a computer without being able to fight and protect myself? And,
Well, that's kind of what, like, I think as people, we have an illusion that we can protect ourselves. But, I mean, unless you're really in control of a government, then you can't really protect yourself all that well.
But you're at least trying,
Yeah,
like,
you
the
get
opportunity,
the illusion that you might survive, but
it's not just an illusion. It's a chance. There's a reason why governments are very much scared of people, but also, like, scarcity brings value. That's one of the first things they teach you if you take, like, any econ course. It's like, it's all about scarcity. scarcity of resources. That's why things matter. So like I just think if like suddenly you have infinite life, you know, and you can live forever and you can have every fantasy possible, you know, at what point does that become boring? And
That's
just
kind of
like,
it, man. That's kind of it, and that's why
don't
I
get me
think
wrong, I'm gonna have a good 1,000 years before I get bored,
I
but
think
it's gonna hit.
but I think people are kind of forced this idea that their lives are like supposed to be really super meaningful, and like you're supposed to like do a lot of stuff and do all kinds of things, and you got to do this and you got to do that, and there's just so much complication that we have thrown at us, like, but like there were also, you know, human beings 10,000 years ago that, you know, they just lived their life and they just like found their food and they had their family, and then they just like chilled and like looked around and stuff, and it was like a cool experience, I'm sure.
Shorter,
Shorter,
much shorter. I will say, you know,
but there's a lot of pressure to put on people, and it, especially with social media, it's like you're just constantly being shown these fake lives that people have.
you know what podcast I'm really loving right now?
Mo Keith time.
Mo Keith time. Neil Brennan show.
Blocks.
Blocks, which I love. And I watched the Bill Burr one that he recently did. And Bill Burr was talking about how he's such a smart guy, Bill Burr. He was like, you know, it's different now, but it's not necessarily bad, but I do feel bad for some of the newer comics and some of the kids nowadays because they don't have a chance to build a scene like we did, where there was a bit of like it was kind of special to have a scene, and it was like very localized, and maybe you didn't know as much as the people coming out of that scene because they didn't all have cameras and everything wasn't videotaped. Like sometimes you had to be there, you know, to see what happened, and you heard about it in the rumor mill, or like people would talk about it, like this guy's really good at stand up, or this guy's really good at playing, you know, this instrument. And there's this development and uniqueness that's so regional, you know, and maybe so specific to your city, and we don't see that as much anymore. You know, I think maybe we see it in some music, but it feels like everybody kind of knows everything. Like everybody knows there's a scene in Japan where they wear like hip hop gear and do XYZ.
Well, yeah, it's all homogenized because of the internet. The internet takes away culture.
Specialness of it.
It takes away, like it does. It takes away scenes.
I think it also adds some things because it gives the opportunity for some people to, you know,
scenes
explore
can
and
explode
appreciate
faster, and things can go viral, and like things can catch on faster. But people forget about everything fast. The turnover on everything is just so quick.
Oh yeah, it doesn't last. And I also think it takes time for things to get really, really good and really cool and
man.
weird. Like there has to be, I think what sometimes people forget from an art view is like it takes a while for things to be really weird and awkward. There's an awkwardness to developing art. And I feel like we skip right to the good part, and we don't get to appreciate some of the development behind that.
Yeah. Well, I always liked I mean, I don't know if this is quite what you're getting at, but maybe it was. Like, I always enjoyed the I like behind the scenes stuff. I like knowing about behind the scenes. Like,
you like the inside baseball.
I like getting to know. I always love like the making of something. I always like to watch that. That's fun for me.
Have you watched the making of The Lord of the Rings?
No.
That's wild.
I've seen the one for Indiana Jones. I've seen the one for Star Wars. It's just basically bonus features they put on DVDs, which was pretty cool. But I always love behind the scenes. I love the behind Behind the Music was cool on VH1 back
Yeah.
in the 90s
Oh,
and
yeah.
early 2000s. They had Behind the Music, which was pretty cool.
Now we have like what the 30 for 30s for sports. We have a ton of sports documentaries to talk about stuff
Yeah.
like that. But...
They had this series called Classic Albums, which was awesome. You could like, I had a bunch of DVDs, and you can buy them on Apple TV or whatever platform. I think you can just buy these Classic Albums episodes, like they're hour-long episodes where they like dive into a classic album, and they like it'll be like the producer on the album with the band too, probably, and they go through that album like song by song, and they break it down. They're like, all right, and they're like, oh, this was what this is what one of the guitars sounded like that you can't really hear as well, but it's because it's lower in the mix, but it kind of helps build the whole thing. You kind of get to see all the building blocks that make the music that you enjoy, which is really, really interesting to me. I think to a lot
it's
of people.
interesting to you and a lot of other people, especially if you make music, right? It's like, to me, I like hearing the stories behind bits. I really like tuning into that. Like, I don't know, because I'm sure like we're comedy nerds, so we can listen to like all these comics talk about how they came to these stories or like how they kind of worked out a bit. But
I can.
Some people can't. Some people are like, oh, it's so boring. But
It's fun. I mean, but a lot of comics, they don't really get into it. They don't do a behind the scenes on how a bit came to be.
some do. I think comedians in cars getting coffee sometimes dug in a little bit. Some of these longer form podcasts, they have like older episodes where you can kind of see people making bits happen, and then you see it on like in a special at one point.
You know what was cool?
Really follow someone like that.
Ari Shafir had, I don't think he does this anymore, but he used to do these, like, he'd get an album, like, I think it was really the first album that a comedian would put out with his friends. He would do a podcast episode that was like, it would be like Joe List, and they listen to Joe List's first album, and they go track by track, and then they would talk about it. And that's probably the closest that there's really ever been to like, what was it like? How did this bit go? Like, what was going on for that? And I mean, these episodes are like 3 hours long, so it was pretty cool. You could probably go find those online if that kind of thing.
I'll definitely listen to that. Well, I'm more thinking HBO had a special where they had a bunch of comics. They had a series where they had a bunch of comics in a circle talking about
Oh yeah,
each other's bits.
Yeah, well,
and
I can't remember the name
appreciating
of it at this
each
moment,
other. They had
but
Joe,
I know exactly.
They had Bo Burnham. They had a bunch of folks.
David Tell.
Yeah. But no, I also miss when things were special, where like you had to go to the theater to watch something, or like you had to go outside and like really look at something. You couldn't watch it on TV. You couldn't like, we get close to it with things like eclipses and stuff, but like the whole communal aspect there is kind of gone. I also like, I don't know, I feel really bad for kids nowadays too, because I feel like everything goes so fast. Like I could barely keep up with trends when I was a kid, and everything, like the internet wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah. Now I couldn't even imagine kids. Things must change every single day. Jokes must change every single. Because like when I was a kid, you could watch something and the jokes from that could last you a solid year. Like because there was not a lot of other good stuff out there. You could keep going.
I mean, the ADHD of the kids that are growing up right now, the really young kids. I mean, even probably 10 and up. Or 10 and down, 10 and under at this point are probably like, that ADHD must be crazy.
It's insane.
Because they're just getting stuff thrown at them all the time, constantly, just blah. Like, it's nuts, and it sucks how you
And they're
if you
so much smarter. They're so much smarter than we were.
yeah that's part of it is they're getting thrown all this information, and a lot of it they absorb, a good amount of information, but it's just it's a new time, and we're just living in it, and it's better get used to it. But to lighten things up, the
I'm not. I hope I keep kicking this, but I'm not necessarily unhappy with the way the world is necessarily going.
The world's perfect right now. It's safe to say there's nothing going on.
I wouldn't say it's perfect, but I would just definitely say like it's not. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, it's so like not great, or like it's the worst it's ever been. And it's like, if you really think about it, I was saying this to Courtney. I was like, man, I think it's so bad right now. It's kind of like the worst it's ever been. And she was like, well, there was a time where people were worried about nukes falling on their head.
It's the best it's ever been. It always is. We're just like, we want it to be, we always want better. And that's kind of why society keeps progressing in a lot of ways.
It's when we don't want any better. It's when
we want to go back. We want to like, we need to go back to the way it was. Way back in the old times. And it's like, no, just let people go forward with things, and things will work their way out. I think my prediction for my daughter's generation is that the kids that are like in their early 20s now, and they're in their late teens and late teens, early 20s, that
they're gonna sell out.
No, I think those people are like gonna be like the conservative, like the parents in the 50s. It's like, whoa, hippies are coming, like, whoa, what are these hippies doing? That's gonna be I think my daughter's generation is gonna be like the hippie generation. No, they're gonna fight against the conservativeness, and they're gonna kind of fight it.
I think also the conservatives that are coming up now, these newer gen conservatives, they're not really as conservative as we think they are.
Well, I guess when I'm saying conservative, I'm not thinking politically. I'm thinking of like people that are like, just like closed-minded. Oh, you can't say this, you can't say that. Like, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like, a lot of just of the people want to police things you say, and it's just like, you can't. That shit's gotta end. And I think people are gonna get, kids growing up are gonna be like, this is dumb. They're gonna fight it.
I think they are gonna fight it. I think my line with that stuff is, you can't say the N-word if you're not black. That's kind of my line on it.
I think eventually they'll come back around where everyone can say it. That's a real
line.
I think it's going to come back
I don't think it will.
You don't think so?
I just think there are lines there where, like, I don't say the N. I think what's more likely going to happen is nobody says it. But
I think if that's really going to happen, no one's going to say it. I think black people are going to let it go and be like, we don't say this either.
Well, black people have. That's the thing. I don't call a lot of people my N-word anymore.
You don't do that?
I don't call, like, there's some people I go back to, like a childish 13-year-old me, and I go, that's my guy. But
I shouldn't do it to you then.
No, I'd hate you. I really would. I would genuinely hate you. I would hate you. Yeah, I would. No, it's like, no, it's happened. Keith,
I've done it?
You're not you, but like, you've never done that.
Oh, thank you. Oh, man,
Keith has never. The only thing Keith has ever told me is, Mo, you really are black and mild. I think he said, Mo, if you were a cigarette, you'd be black and mild. But
there it is.
It's happened. I've had to cut off friends who've come up to me, like, said the N-word to me, and I'll be like, no, you're not my friend anymore.
Really?
I can't handle you. I can't. You're lucky I'm not, trying to. You're lucky I'm better than trying to hit you. I think you're disgusting for saying that to me. I take it as disrespect. But it's like, I think that those lines exist, right? Also, like, I will never call someone like a homophobic slur. Like,
that's my favorite
in my
thing.
age right now.
I love calling you that, but that's fine.
Behind my back.
No, to your face.
To my face.
As soon as the mics go off.
But then, like, there are words like, I said the R word earlier. I shouldn't have said that. But it's like,
but it was cozy.
That stuff, that I feel like I feel like overt racism obviously has its place to like be not, we don't use that anymore. Some of the other stuff that's coming around, like I really hate when people are like, you might not have said something racist, but there are undertones of racism there by your tone, or like by maybe a specific word that you used. I forget what it's called. Microaggressions, like that's gonna go away. That's gonna go away.
Talking about
I just saw your microaggression. You got mad. You were,
no,
microaggression.
it was someone talking about when they talking about, there's certain groups of people that they have their lingo that they use.
They're insufferable.
They just use their lingo, and they all learn their lingo from each other, and it's just they shout it at you like you know it, and it's like they're just accusatory, and like it's like, oh my god, you need.
And it's all social science. Which social science? The thing about social science is like you might go find something in like an article, a peer-reviewed article. Yeah. And you might be like, oh, wow, they did all this research that shows that, X amount of people are racist, or X amount of people who say this are really meaning this or that. And it comes from all the survey data. The statistical significance for social, like any like liberal art is, I think they have the lowest standard for statistical significance. Like biology, math, you have to have like your research has to be right like 99.9% of the time. But like for social sciences, it's like 95, 90, or even less. Like it has to it can't always be, it doesn't have to always be right. Like it's a weird thing that you learn when you take social sciences. Like the statistics that they're coming up with, first off, it's all like from surveys. So it depends on where those surveys are taken, what the sample size is, all that crap. And then it doesn't even always have to be that right. So it's like a weird, like it's not, you have to take all this with a grain of salt when you point the stuff out. It's not always going to be right. But it doesn't take away the fact that you should have difficult discussions in life about race, religion, and other people, but
I do think we can both agree there are two types of black people. There's black people
and black and miles.
And there's black and miles. And this has been Mokeep Time.
Fuck you.